CURES is sponsored by Wheeler Health's Better Choice program. More at wheelerhealth.org.
Helping you lead a healthier life. This is CURES.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the CURES Show, where we explore the cutting edge of wellness for our mind, body, and spirit. I'm Kara Sundlin, and we're going to give you a little mental health boost. Right about now, the clocks have changed. You're dealing with a lot more darkness and a lot less daylight. Have you noticed that you're feeling maybe a little gloomy or depressed? Could you have SAD, or seasonal affective disorder? Dr. Laura Saunders is a psychologist and the director of the Hartford HealthCare Institute of Living. She's joining us now for our weekly check-in. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me, Kara.
So let's first talk about what SAD is, because a lot of people say, oh, I must have SAD. But there is some clinical parameters. How would you know if you have seasonal affective disorder?
Oh, yeah. So seasonal affective disorder is, in fact, a mood disorder. It's a diagnosable condition. It's characterized by depression that tends to occur around the same time every year, usually in the fall. You're more likely to be affected by seasonal affective disorder if you have underlying vulnerabilities to depression or anxiety. But, let's think about it. And, when I was talking about getting ready to talk about, doing a segment here on seasonal affective disorder, I kind of crunched the numbers in terms of like, what time is the sun rising? What time's the sun setting, right? The sun's setting right around 4:30, and I know we have like 40 days till we get to the winter solstice. So, it's only going to get less. That's only about 9 hours a day of sunlight. So that means the other 15 hours a day are darkness. And that kind of hit me. I'm someone who gets affected by it. Maybe I don't have the full-blown disorder, but I definitely get affected. My mood and my energy gets affected in the fall without a lot of light. I'm someone who sometimes gets up, like this morning, I was up when it was still dark, and I'll get home when it's dark. So if you don't make efforts to get outside, it really has an impact on your mood and your energy.
Yeah, just tell me the estimates. Like, how common is that?
So there's some estimates that about 6% of the U.S. population has seasonal affective disorder in a severe form, and about 14% for mild symptoms. I probably think that's an underestimate. I think there's a lot more people that certainly have mild symptoms. So maybe only about 6% or so have the full-blown disorder or more severe. But so we're not talking just a few people here. We're talking a good percentage of the population.
Yeah. Let's just go over the symptoms so people at home can determine, do I maybe have this?
So they're not all that different from the symptoms of depression. It has more to do with sort of the context and when it's happening, but you're feeling tired and fatigued. You might have changes in your appetite, difficulty concentrating or remembering, changes in your sleep, more so than just, the daylight savings. You might have some physical aches and pains. You might feel hopeless or worthless, and you could feel changes in your mood, a more irritability, and a loss of interest in activities that you may have previously enjoyed.
Yeah, and this could be, these are actual changes perhaps in our brain where the serotonin is getting too low for folks who are affected.
Yes. There is some significant chemical changes that happen, right? So vitamin D is something that we get from the sun, and vitamin D gives you energy. So melatonin is the hormone in your brain that helps bring on sleep. But you don't want that to be happening when it gets dark at 4:35, 6 o'clock, because when it gets dark these days, it gets dark. It gets dark at it sunsets at 4:30, and it's dark very soon after. It's not like it lingers in the summer. These are, chemicals in your brain, not just, it's not just in your head, as they say.
Yeah, and I definitely think I'm someone who suffers from this, not the full-blown clinical depression. As I learned when I visited the Yale SAD Center, there are some folks who every year they really can't get out of bed. They might gain a lot of weight. It's the same as clinical depression. But I definitely noticed the mood thing. For my own self, my doctor recommended taking the vitamin D supplements because even with a multi, I was low. So that's something that obviously people want to check with their doctor, but that is pretty common now that people can find out that just that might be one easy thing to do is take a vitamin D supplement, because we often aren't going to get enough, especially in the winter here.
Right. And I think that's important to note, that we're talking about sort of the Northeast, where it does get cold, and we do have less daylight. Vitamin D is something we get from exposure to the sun. A lot of us here in the Northeast don't get enough exposure to the sun. And even when you do, you're wearing sunscreen, so you're trying not to let those harmful rays penetrate. There's lots of over-the-counter supplements. Always check with your primary care doctor, your physician. But yes, vitamin D is a supplement that can be helpful. Some people take melatonin if they're having sleep disturbance. And then you want to do things to better regulate your sleep.
Okay, so we also want to talk about food, because you can always start there. Maybe you're going to invest in some supplements, or maybe you're going to do something outside of that. I know I certainly do, and I think it does help me. But let's just start with the food. Food affects mood, right?
Food affects mood, and it really it's important to note. I mean, I sometimes refer to it when we're trying to manage depression, anxiety, or mood issues. It's one of the low-hanging fruit. When we are feeling bad about ourselves, when we are low energy, we tend to go for comfort foods, right? And once in a while, having some comfort food just does, in fact, make us feel better. But what we're talking about are comfort foods that are really not as healthy for us. So cravings, someone's comfort food for someone might be, having a pint of ice cream at night, or having more sugar or more sweets. So being really mindful of some of the comfort foods that can not necessarily help us, really not much in the short term, and definitely not in the long term.
Yeah, sugars, breads, I know we all love that, especially when you're feeling low, but it could actually make it worse. Instead, we want to eat some things that have some research, scientific research behind them, that can help, starting with leafy greens and berries.
Right. So we want foods that will help us reduce inflammation. We want to stay away from foods that cause inflammation, right? So foods that cause inflammation are trans fats, refined sugars, and refined grains, like you had mentioned. They can contribute to feeling bad. What we need to sort of insert more of, foods that reduce inflammation. And let's start with fruits and vegetables. Let's go with berries and leafy greens. Find out what what your favorite vegetables are. It's okay if you have the same vegetable, day after day, if that's what makes you feel better. So focusing on fruits and vegetables, salmon and other kind of fatty fish. So fatty fish have omega-3 fatty acids, and omega-3 fatty acids really help with inflammation, and they can help reduce depression as well.
Yeah, so I love berries, fruits and veggies. If you're someone who's not getting enough of them, I'm just going to shout out that we actually years ago did a story with, there's a green drink that's made right here in Connecticut called Green Vibrance. And it's an FDA approved facility, but, just trying to make sure you're getting enough greens. I know some people are just not eating enough. You could also grind them up, with some water and a little bit of fruit and drink a green drink that way. But we really need vegetables in order to get everything that we need.
Absolutely. Supplements are not even, vitamins and minerals, vitamin supplements are not even enough. Actually getting minerals from your food is so important. Another great food for combating inflammation and mood issues is yogurt, right? So it shows that the probiotics and fermented dairy products really boost gut health. And gut health and mental health are very closely connected. They know that, after a lot of research over the years, they know that, the brain and gut have a lot of connections. So when you're anxious, it's why you often feel it in your stomach. People say I have a stomach ache when actually they're feeling anxious, because there's a lot of brain-gut connections.
Yeah. The gut, that people call it our second brain. And this isn't just, I know people are thinking, okay, this is all this woo-woo or whatever, but you are a woman of science, and as a psychologist, you can tell us there is this superhighway, and if things are off in our gut, we're not going to make the neurotransmitters correctly that our brain needs to feel good and focus.
Right. So doing things to take care of yourself physically, including, very importantly, your gut health, and making sure that you eat some kind of balance. Again, I'm not saying we can never have some comfort foods. We couldn't have a little ice cream, or I do love a little bit of mashed potato, right? So that's a real comfort food for me. But, you can't be having these things every day. So
Or have
allowing
them with
yourself
your
a little
salmon.
bit of right. You can have your mashed potato with my salmon.
Uh-huh.
So doing things that are the low hanging fruit, which is helping better moderate your sleep and bringing in food and nutrition that is just better for you overall.
Now, I mentioned salmon, but that is a point that you want to make. Many people I know from doing this show for a long time might be low in omega-3s. We have a lot of processed foods in our diet. Salmon is a great natural source to get it from.
Absolutely. And there are other ways to get it. I mean, again, I think there are omega-3 supplements as
Yeah.
well. Check with your primary care doctor, but there are ways to get these things in your diet and to reduce inflammation.
Yeah, I'll shout out that one of the integrative doctors that comes on really likes, if you're just going to go to Whole Foods, get the brand Nordic Naturals. They're triple tested. Sometimes we just don't get enough. But again, of course, always talk to your own doctor. But I'm just shouting that out for folks. Also, sometimes you actually need more treatment. I know at the Yale SAD Center, they have people who are dealing with clinical depression, big light boxes, and you want to look for something that's 10,000 lux, but there is light therapy out there. I bought something on Amazon, but light therapy is based in science. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. And I think sometimes the first step in this is actually identifying what's going on, right? So we're only a week into daylight savings, and for the most part, it is getting darker, but really in the next month, as it's only going to, the day's only going to continue to get shorter, the daylight, really identify what's going on. Take a look at your energy, reflect a little bit on your sleep patterns, identify the fact that you feel so irritable all the time and everything just makes you so angry and you're snapping at the people around you. Identify what's going on, look at it as a pattern, because then you can actually take some steps forward, whether that's a vitamin D supplement or the phototherapy, in making some changes in your diet, identify it, and then you can better be armed to take steps to move forward.
Yeah. So just for the light box, I know you said we need to look for something that's 10,000 lux. You might start the day with 30 to 45 minutes of it. Just, maybe you're doing your makeup, your coffee. Also, just walking outside first thing in the morning and getting that sunlight on our face. If you have a dog, I recently adopted a dog. Just getting outside for a few minutes to walk the dog simple things like that could make a difference for us.
Absolutely. I mean, we want as much as possible to get outside, because really getting outside, and we're not even talking about, vigorous or rigorous exercise. It's getting outside, it's getting exposure to sunlight. I mean, today's a little bit crisp, and we've really had some beautiful fall days. We haven't had much rain. Get yourself outside, get yourself active, go for a short walk, start with up and down the street or around the block. Get yourself more active, because what that does is it actually helps clear your mind. It helps you deepen your breaths, because now you're moving your body. That gets oxygen flowing to your brain and through your heart. And it just helps you feel better.
Yeah, yeah. What about some people that you work with? Do they need medication, perhaps, especially during this time of the year?
So there are individuals who have more severe forms of seasonal affective disorder, where getting a medication evaluation from your nurse practitioner, primary care doctor, can be helpful. That, their symptoms are so debilitating that medication really is the best answer. I mean, I actually know a couple of different people where right around this time of year, or now it's preventative, right? They start in October, they get themselves on some antidepressant medication. And remember, antidepressant medication, I mean, I'm not a psychiatrist, but I work with psychiatrists all the time, but antidepressant medication doesn't make you happy, right? It gives you just a little bit more energy to then do the things that you need to do to help yourself feel better.
Okay. And let's talk about our kids, because it can be hard. They can be moody anyway. If you have little ones, they might kind of, go all over the place. Or teens already are a little grumpy. They hate getting up in the morning. But can kids suffer from SAD too? And what should we do if we think their mood is taking a nosedive in the winter?
Yeah, absolutely. Young people can be affected by seasonal affective disorder as well. You want to look at the patterns of their behavior first, right? Are they staying up all night on their phones, or they're, my son had a friend in high school who would, get home from cross country or winter track, go to sleep for a few hours and then get up at like 10 o'clock and be up for a few hours and then go back to sleep. I mean, disrupted sleep patterns really will affect people's mood as well. So really look at your kids, look at some of their behaviors and patterns, and if they're doing things that are contributing to their irritability and low energy and sleep difficulties, and then start to address things. But absolutely, young people can be affected as well.
So if you're noticing this also in your kids, and especially since the time change, teens want to stay up later anyway, but I've noticed in my house, they're trying to go to bed and they're feeling like they can't, they're wired. Is it okay when they really need to fall asleep to have them take some melatonin?
Right. There are over-the-counter supplements. And, again, check with your primary care doctor, your pediatrician. There are over-the-counter supplements that really can help with sleep. Melatonin is one of those things. It's considered kind of a naturally occurring hormone in the body. And it's just important to know that whenever you try something like that, you always want to go with the lowest possible dose.
Yes.
But melatonin helps with the onset of sleep. So it'll help you start, like if you're someone who has what we call early morning awakening, you always wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and you can't fall back to sleep. That is not a time to take melatonin, right? Melatonin is for the onset of sleep. However, you also need, especially with their young people, to have habits and behaviors that also bring on sleep, right? So, slowing yourself down, doing a big vigorous exercise, or having a big meal right before you're going to sleep is not a good way to allow the body to shut down. So it's the behaviors that allow you to wind your body and your mind down and help bring on the onset of sleep.
Yeah, and that's where I love, speaking with you with the psychology of this. I know we've had some sleep experts on. They'll talk about ideally we should stop eating 2 to 3 hours before we go to bed, get off of our screens, especially if you're sensitive to blue light. If you really are going to use your screen, turn that blue light filter on, or use your blue light glasses. For me, I know that I read on a device and it doesn't seem to bother me. The reading puts me to sleep. But ideally, we have to kind of figure out what makes you go to sleep. What you would tell us, though, is the low-hanging fruit is sleep. If we're not having good nutrition and sleep, then certainly our SAD could be worse, or we could just be depressed regardless of the SAD, but because we're not sleeping and eating well.
Right. I mean, and those are the things, again, that you have control over. You can take all these different medications, but if you're not engaging in the behaviors that also help bring on better sleep and better nutrition, getting yourself outside during the day, if you're not engaging in the behaviors that are also helping you, the medication's not going to just, it's not a magic pill to make you feel better.
I love that you're a middle of the road psychologist, but you're also a big proponent of meditation, and you do it in a simple way. Is there something we should be doing that could alleviate these winter blues regarding breath work or meditation that you think is helpful?
Yes. So I actually, you call it mindfulness. Mindfulness and meditation are slightly different. So meditation is really a practice and it's a set of skills. And I've done meditation at many points in my life. It is so unbelievably helpful for you. But even just starting with mindfulness. So mindfulness is being in the present moment non-judgmentally. So it's not worrying about what the future is or what did I do yesterday? It's, next week I have to do this and Thanksgiving's coming up, right? So that's not being in the present moment. So if you're sitting at your desk, if you're going for a walk, even if you're driving in your car, you can be in the present moment non-judgmentally, which means focusing on, say, your 5 senses, non-judgmentally. So it's like, it's not, I'm a terrible person. I don't ever remember to do these things, or, I'm worried about myself as a mother. I don't do a very good job. All that negativity is so detrimental. So yes, I use a mantra, and actually I keep it on my computer. I have it on my mirrors at home. And my mantra is to be mindful in the moment. I am happy. I am at peace. I am healthy, and I am safe. And even if you don't feel all those things, you can say them in ways like, I'm working on being safe, or I'm bringing peace into my life, or I'm working on feeling okay, right? There's ways to do that, even if you don't fully believe all those things, but I use that as a mantra for myself a lot,
Yeah.
as a way to sort of slow me down, bring me back into the present moment, be non-judgmental to myself, and give me a chance to breathe deeply, which then sends oxygen through my brain and all through my body and slows my breathing down.
Okay, hold that thought. We're going to talk a little bit more about why that works and what we can do for SAD after we hear quickly from our sponsor.
Struggling with gambling? Wheeler Health's Better Choice program offers personalized support and treatment to help you regain control. Visit wheelerhealth.org to learn more and take the first step towards recovery today.
All right, I'm back here with Dr. Laura Saunders from the Institute of Living. We're talking about SAD, seasonal affective disorder. It is a real thing. And Dr. Saunders, as we were talking about some mindfulness, I think, because I know you're a child psychologist, and I think all of us are trying to, it starts with us. We have to kind of help with our own mood and our own balance as the mom in the house. But everything you're talking about would help with our kids as well, even if they roll their eyes. And I don't know how we get them to do these things, but what's your advice if you're worried about your kids going through this and how you can maybe get them to try some of these mindfulness things?
Right. And you know, the best thing we can do is sometimes be a good role model, that we do these things ourselves. Sometimes that means kind of putting our phones down, being in the present moment, giving your child your time, energy, and attention, because those are the best gifts that you can give your child. And it's really helping them, again, identifying, look, I think it's, you know, the change in weather and the less light and the daylight savings, I think it's really affecting your mood and your energy. Can we try one thing to see if that's helpful? Where, you know, let's try going to bed 15 minutes earlier. Or let's try, you know, adding one vegetable or one piece of fruit into your day, right? Not making 5 changes at a time, because then you have no idea what's helping you.
Yeah.
Start with one small measurable change that you can help with your child and your teen with, and that you're doing some of these things yourself, right? If you're saying to your child, we need to focus on being a little healthier, and then you're eating poorly and drinking too much, that's not being the best role model that you can be.
Now, if you think you might need extra help, do you find that some people really do need not only medication, but talk therapy, maybe cognitive behavioral therapy, in order to really protect themselves from SAD?
Yes, I mean, there are people that because that now sort of that low energy and that depression or that sadness or that hopelessness has washed over them, now things from their past sort of come up, or, you know, they realize that they do have a bigger anxiety disorder that they're not addressing, or they've had some trauma from their past that they haven't addressed. They're in a relationship that is just not working and hasn't been working for a very long time, but they're unsure of what to do. So it would be common, if you're struggling with something, that other struggles or past struggles that are unresolved also, you know, rear their head. So it's an opportunity to step into being in therapy and doing some of that work.
What about avoiding substances like alcohol, right? A lot of people tend, when they're feeling more anxious, more depressed, they're drinking more. There's a lot of holiday parties going on. Is alcohol going to make SAD worse?
So generally, substances are going to make any kind of a mood or anxiety disorder a little bit worse. I know that there's a lot of people out there that think that, you know, marijuana, you know, takes the edge off their anxiety. And while that might be true, doing something every day or doing something regularly actually can cause some rebound anxiety. So trying to work on being substance free, or at least harm reduction, at least reducing the amount that you're taking in substances, especially with alcohol. Alcohol, people believe it helps them sleep or it helps them wind down, but alcohol can actually, the closer you have alcohol to the time of sleep, you can cause rebound awakening. So you have to really be careful with alcohol, because it might help you fall asleep, but then 2 or 3 hours later, you're awake and you're ruminating about all these things. And that's the alcohol causing that rebound awakening.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just having this discussion when I was away with some sorority sisters. We were celebrating a 50th birthday, and people saying, you know, gosh, you know, it's only a glass of wine. And we recently did a show about this, that, you know, the alcohol standards in other countries have changed. We used to think it was a health benefit. Now we know it's not a health benefit. And that if you are drinking on a regular basis, even if it's only one drink, to kind of calm down, if that's part of your nighttime ritual, as far as your mental health, certainly not helping you.
Right. And again, we're just talking about harm reduction. We're not talking about, if you're not ready to do that, wiping something out of your life, but start by reducing it. So instead of, maybe you're having a drink, 1 or 2 drinks every day, let's start by not doing it on Mondays and Tuesdays, right?
Yep.
So let's find ways to reduce it and start to see some of the positive benefits. But the reality is you're going to have to do something over some period of time to start to feel better. But it also helps you feel a little bit more in control of your life when you can reduce substances like that.
Yeah. Let me ask you from a psychological perspective, if you are trying to make those positive changes, but it's a hard habit to break. For me, I don't drink during the week, and I have a cup of tea. I really love the ritual of making my, nighty-night tea, which I do think helps me sleep too. But if people are wanting to make those adjustments, like, all right, I don't want to be taking a gummy if you're doing that, or I don't want to have wine every night, but it's such a part of my routine. I look forward to relaxing. How do you begin from a psychological perspective to really make those changes stick?
So it takes some work, right? And again, I don't like to just toss things out there and say, oh, it's going to be easy. It's not always going to be easy, right? So if you're in a habit of doing something, or if you're in a routine and that routine provides some comfort for you, making changes in your routine, it might be a little bit disruptive, but you have to sometimes think about what the larger goal is. The larger goal is, I'm getting older and, I know that alcohol is affecting me differently. So what's my goal? My goal is to feel better. Okay. So I'm going to start by, instead of having 2 glasses of wine, I'm going to cut back to 1, or I'm going to not do it on Mondays and Tuesdays. And I'm going to do something else in its place, right?
Yes.
So you can find something to supplement, put something else in its place. So you're not sitting at home, longing for that glass of wine that you really want. You're doing something else to add it in. And also getting a friend to do it with you, right? Finding, or a spouse, a partner, or friends, finding someone else to do it with you. Okay, Mondays and Tuesdays, we're cutting back. We're not going to drink up, anything on Mondays and Tuesdays. And then, now it's Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. At some point you can add to it, but finding someone to do it with you provides that additional and outside support.
All right, we're down to the final minute. So if you think you might having your mood's taking a nosedive, what's your takeaway that you want people to do today? Something they can do now.
Identify what's going on and make one small change to help yourself feel better. Go to bed a little earlier, get outside, take some vitamin D, talk to a friend.
All right, all good advice. Dr. Laura Saunders, thank you so much, as always, for your wisdom from the Institute of Living. We really appreciate you sharing this information that can really help people.
Thank you, Kara.
Thanks for being here. And you can follow me on social media at Kara Sundlin. Join the CURES Facebook group. We like to share this content there. And to support this podcast, make sure you subscribe and leave us a review. Have a great day, everyone, and be well.
CURES is sponsored by Wheeler Health's Better Choice program. More at wheelerhealth.org.